Before you ignore Elon Musk's latest warning, watch this. What if the warning that could change your next year, maybe your entire life, just flashed by in a headline, and you did what everyone else did, you scrolled by. But deep down, you know you shouldn't. Because you've seen it before, a disruptive tweet, a strange press conference, a meme that feels like a dare, and then everyone wakes up a year later to realize, he was right, again. The most polarizing billionaire on the planet, Elon Musk, just sounded a new alarm. Some people are already laughing at him. Some are mad. Some are rolling their eyes. Here he goes again, overreacting, selling drama, chasing attention. But here's the part nobody is talking about. He's never really talking about the thing on the surface. Not the headlines. Not the shiny gadgets or the off-the-cuff quotes he knows will set the internet on fire. Elon's real warnings are always a level deeper, a pattern, a shift, a pressure system that only gets obvious when it's already too late to act. Let's pause for a moment. What if you could read the signals before the crowd? What if you could be the person who didn't dismiss the early warning, the quiet announcement, the pattern hiding in the noise? Not just to feel smart, but to make moves, before the world scrambles to catch up. Think about this. How many times has Musk been laughed at first, only to be followed by industries later? When he warned about AI, people said he was fear-mongering. When he talked about overdependence on rare materials, the supply chains hadn't even started to break. When he insisted Mars was an urgent backup, most planet Earth shrugged. Now, for most people, warnings only feel real once everyone around them panics. It's human nature. You want confirmation. You want social proof before you act. But if you could train yourself, just once, to trust the signal before the echo, how would that change your decisions, your career, your safety net? Would you have invested, switched jobs, chosen a robot-proof skill, in time? Let's zoom in. You probably saw the headline, Elon warns about the next big collapse. Maybe it was about AI, or the end of cheap energy, or the hidden fragility of social platforms. But what most people missed wasn't the content, it was the context. Musk doesn't see the world as a slow, steady march of progress. He sees a world full of fragilities, systems held together by invisible assumptions. It's his habit to pull one thread, to question the foundation everyone else trusts. That's why he was one of the first to sound alarms on everything from self-driving regulation, to lithium shortages, to the death of open discourse. So when he issues a new warning, look beneath the obvious. He's probably not just talking about technology, he's talking about the story that world leaders, big tech, Wall Street, and even you, are telling yourselves. Pause with me. Because here's the trick. The world doesn't reward the first person to panic. It rewards the first person to prepare. To make the quiet move before the proof is on the front page. Let's rewind, for a minute, to a moment so many missed. The year was 2012, and people were openly mocking the idea of reusable rockets as a fever dream, a cash bonfire. Musk's warnings about traditional aerospace risk weren't just predictions, they were calls to redesign reality. Only, nobody wanted to listen. The next few years, every legacy player got leapfrogged. Billions lost. Careers turned over. And suddenly, those same warnings read like prophecy. What does this have to do with you? Everything. Because every new warning from Musk is a mirror held up to the stories you're living by, the risks you're not seeing, or the comfort you're too busy defending. Most people think, I'm not running a tech company. Why should I care if he says something bad is coming? But that's exactly it. By the time the risks are so big that everyone's talking, it's not a warning anymore, it's a consequence. Stop for a second, breathe. If you keep watching, I want you to do something. After this section, write down the last 3 warnings you remember seeing from anyone you admire. Did you act on any of them, or did you wait for everyone else to move first? This is your first test. Can you catch the pattern before the panic? Let's go deeper. Whenever Musk drops a warning, it's never in a vacuum. He's out ahead not because he's smarter, but because he's more willing to question every basic assumption. What's powering our future? Who's controlling the conversation? Which safe job is one algorithm away from vanishing? He looks for leverage where things are bent, not broken, where the story is fragile, right before it snaps. Now imagine seeing through that lens. What would you do differently at work, at home, with your skills? Would you spend less time defending the status quo, and more time building insurance for the future no one else is ready for? Of course, it's uncomfortable to think about collapse. About losing the safety you think you've earned. The temptation is always to turn away, to tune out the outlier who keeps breaking the spell. But here's another warning. The cost of ignoring signals isn't pain, at first. It's missed opportunity. It's inertia, a slow locking in, until you can't move even if you want to. Pause. Right now, somewhere, an uncomfortable truth is trying to get your attention. Do you feel it yet? Does it show up as uncertainty, as irritation, as a headline you keep avoiding because it feels too real? Don't ignore it. The future is always built by those who listen up, not by those who wait for the crowd's permission. In the next section, we'll unmask the specific warning Musk just dropped, the one nobody can afford to sleep on. But more importantly, we'll reveal the mental move you can make, today, to stop being surprised by tomorrow. Don't scroll away. Not this time. Here's what almost nobody noticed about Musk's latest warning: it wasn't just dire. It was a dare. See, when Elon Musk sounds an alarm, it's not about making you anxious for the sake of anxiety. He's not trying to build a bunker under your bed or push you into some panic buy spree. His actual message is always more nuanced, almost hidden, a test to see who in the crowd actually pays attention, looks under the surface, and builds a plan. That's what most of the world misses. Let's talk specifics. The latest headline split the internet. Musk warned about the collision between accelerating AI and a crumbling trust ecosystem. We're approaching a point, he said, where videos can be perfectly faked, data can be rewritten, and the very concept of evidence becomes questionable. The knee-jerk response online was mockery, memes, dismissal. But underneath, listen close, he was really saying, the world you think is stable is built on trust that's easier to shake than you'd like to believe. Dig deeper with me. Every advancement in AI, especially in media, in communication, in validation, creates new cracks in the structure society thought was bulletproof. What happens when news is indistinguishable from fiction? What happens when you can't trust video proof, or even your own eyes? What happens when the public panic over what's real becomes more viral than any technology itself? Musk wasn't selling panic, he was selling discipline. Headline readers saw only doom. But pattern readers? They saw a blueprint. He was warning every builder, every company, and every individual, if you're not investing in ways to keep trust strong, to validate, to verify, to build networks based on truth over popularity, you're already behind. Pause, let that settle. Because the real warning wasn't about a gadget or a single bad actor. It was about a social contract quietly dissolving. Musk knows most revolutions don't collapse from the edge. They unravel in the center, in daily assumptions. He's saying, if you think you can spot the moment the world tips, you'll be wrong. You don't see the system breaking, you see the system break, then scramble. Think about this practically. Your job, your career, your friendships, how many of them are based on, I'll take your word for it? How many are built on easily faked evidence, on reputation, on digital footprints? If tomorrow, any of those signals became unreliable, how much would your life really change? It's scary, right? But the truly scary part is not that it might happen, but that it's already possible. Deepfakes, instant bot armies, algorithmic rumors, what Musk warns about isn't science fiction. It's deployment. So, what do you do with this? Do you log off, numb out, wait for governments or corporations to step in and fix the future? Or do you ask the tougher question? If trust is the next resource to collapse, what am I rebuilding now? Pause for reflection. Human beings want to ignore slow erosions. We're tuned to spot asteroids, not termites. But the termites win every time. Let's ground this in Musk's own patterns. Every major warning he's issued in the past, about electric cars, about AI risks, about rare earth supply chains, was met first with cynicism, then with competition, and finally with regret by the slow movers. In each case, the playbook wasn't run and hide. It was check your foundation. Reinforce your critical structures. Hedge against the fragile links everyone else takes for granted. That's the lever he's pulling for you right now. He's not asking you to out-tech the system, but to out-prepare it. To build new habits of validation, context, real connection, real discernment. Imagine, for example, just one decision. If you could never trust a viral video, a trending claim, a piece of evidence, what would you rely on instead? Human relationships. Reputation built in person. Skills that show, not just tell. For Musk, every warning is really an opportunity, if you spot and act before the rest. Let's make this real in your daily life. How much of your job or brand relies on platforms you don't own, on feedback you can't verify, on systems that can be rewritten overnight? What would it mean to practice offline trust, to double down on the skills, the relationships, and the knowledge you'd have even in a blackout? Who would you still trust if you lost your signal, literally or politically? Pause. Now, a small but crucial move. Instead of tuning out the news, start tuning in for patterns. Each time Musk issues a warning, ask yourself, is this fear or is it foresight? Then reverse engineer what would happen to your life if he was right, ahead of the crowd. Write down answers. Make one no-regret move, not huge, but tangible. Update your digital security. Diversify your skills. Schedule real-world time with people you trust, face to face. Those choices might sound boring, but they're the insulation that keeps you nimble when the shocks hit. Here's the secret. Most people believe reacting to news is what sets winners apart. That's wrong. Winners anticipate shifts. They treat every warning not as gospel, but as a prompt to test assumptions, to rehearse scenarios, to train the preparation muscle before they need it. Pause for a breath. How would your next year look different if every scary announcement became a trigger for resilience rather than dread? And don't get me wrong, you don't need to buy every headline, or believe every tweet. Not from Elon. Not from anyone. But you do need to recognize a pattern when it knocks the first time, so you're not crushed when it arrives the 10th. As we step into the next part, we're going to pull apart Musk's most actionable advice under the surface of the warning. What can you start building today, inside your own life, before the crowd catches up? Stick with me, because the world is only getting stranger, and preparation is a skill anyone can master, if they don't ignore the signal. Now, let's take this even deeper. Because at its core, every Musk warning is a frame breaker, a challenge to your default lens, the way you navigate the world on autopilot. And the truth? Most people won't change until the consequences become personal. But by then, it's too late. Let's bring this into focus with a different kind of story. You see, time and again, Musk doesn't just flag risks, he retools entire industries while everyone else debates the headline. SpaceX didn't just tweet about NASA gaps, they built rockets and rewrote the launch calculus. Tesla didn't blog about fossil fuel decline, they forced a shift with electric vehicles, gigafactories, and battery innovation. Heed the warning, and build. So here's the question nobody's asking right now. How do you translate that mindset into your own reality, even if you're not building rockets or coding AI? Start with this first principle. Every time you notice a warning, especially one that triggers a strong emotion, fear, anger, disbelief, pause. Ask yourself, is this evidence of my weakness, or is it instruction for my next move? Let's use Musk's trust collapse warning as a case study. Don't just react, act. If you rely on credentials and good recommendations, what will you do if authentication becomes suspect? If your income depends on information others can fake, are you insulating your skills and reputation in ways that can't be cloned or spoofed? If your peace depends on news you want to believe, how will you handle it when trust goes scarce? The world is waking up to a harsh reality. Validation, truth, cannot be faked for long, but it can be disrupted fast. Breathe for a moment. Now, let's get even more tactical, because preparation is a process, not a panic. Musk's teams don't react to warnings with empty gestures. They run drills, rehearse breakdowns, and build redundancies. If you're skimming this video for entertainment, you'll miss the best part. But if you pause with me right here, here's what you can build into your own daily playbook. Test assumptions regularly. Once a month, write down 3 obvious truths in your field or life. What would happen if each was suddenly false? Who would you trust for real, and what skills would you fall back on? Diversify your skill set. Musk never bets his life on one company, one supply chain, one expertise. Neither should you. At work, in friendships, even in your digital life, run what-if scenarios. Imagine platform bans, rapid automation, even silence. How would you adapt? What part of you is anti-fragile? Form real communities. We live online, where clout fractures overnight, friend circles dissolve with one algorithm tweak. But offline? The person who takes the time to check in, to show up, to share skill and trust, wins big when confusion reigns. Musk's tribes, his loyal co-builders, had months and years of shared struggle long before outcomes were assured. Build your own circle before you need a lifeline. Audit your digital footprint. In a future where footage, credentials, references can be faked at scale, your single best defense is layers of proof, multiple social signals, offline evidence, layered context. Don't be the person whose whole identity exists in the cloud. Pause, breathe. This isn't paranoia. This is what it means to take warnings as currency, not as headlines. Let's look at Musk's record, not just as a leader, but as a pattern watcher. Every collapse he predicted, AI risk, commodity shortages, platform censorship, looked, at first, like dystopian overreaction. But history keeps siding with those who check their footing early. And that, right there, is the biggest takeaway. Every warning is a countdown. You get to choose whether you wait for the last second, or you act while you have time, privacy, and agency. Let's talk psychology for a second. Why do most people ignore warnings? Why do we laugh at the doomsayer until the doom is at our door? Because action is uncomfortable. Doubt feels safer tucked away in routine. Social proof is soothing. But look closer. The cost of safe inaction compounds. It trains you to freeze when stakes are real. It robs you of practice in course correcting. It leaves you waiting at the back of every trend, forced to sprint once the crowd finally catches up. Pause. Ask this, honestly. When's the last time you made a decision that felt slightly uncomfortable because you were ahead of the curve, not behind? Did it pay off? Did it stretch your skill, or your circle, or your character? Remember, the future almost never looks like a big red alert. It's subtle. The market shifts one headline at a time. Laws change, quietly. Technology rewires trust before the law or your HR manual catches up. So here's your move. When Musk shouts a warning, treat it like free R&D, use it as a prompt to stress test your system before the real world demands it. Don't just prepare for disaster, prepare for adaptation. Slow down, see if you can turn the warning into practice. Choose one relationship or job role you value. Ask yourself, if trust in this space disappeared overnight, how would I rebuild it from scratch? What would I need to prove or show, offline, that cannot be faked or replaced? Start building that now, not later. Here's what Musk has really taught us, even if nobody wants to hear it. Adaptation is a muscle. Most will flex it only when they're forced. A few, those who treat warnings as catalysts, will build it one rep at a time, before the world is staring. How do you want your future to look? Reactive, or proactive? Consumed by news cycles, or quietly ready, before the noise breaks? You have time to get this right, if you move before the headlines change. Section 4 is next. We'll look forward, how to spot, and ride, the next, impossible, Musk warning before its consensus truth. Stick around. Ready? Let's look straight into the future, and see how to turn every warning into an edge others can't match. First, pause for a breath. Because here's the hard truth, most people will spend their lives waiting for confirmation, for headlines bolded in all caps, for everyone else to say, now's the time. But the real advantage is always in the silent moments before the crowd moves. That's where opportunity and safety live. That's where regret is avoided, not through panic, but through slow, confident pattern recognition and action. Look at Musk's life as a masterclass in this principle. He never waits for a memo. NASA didn't commission reusable rockets. Wall Street didn't call for mass EV adoption. Regulators didn't ask for open dialogue about AI. Musk simply reads the signals, sometimes even creates the signals, then acts as if the warning is actionable now, not later. You see, in a way, every major leap he's made started with refusing to ignore the early alarm. And if you look back, you'll spot a trail, each move first dismissed, then copied, then normalized. The lesson? The first adopter pays the least in hindsight, gets the most practice adapting, and has the best chance to define new rules. So, if you want to turn the next Musk warning into your advantage, start looking for unconfirmed truths today. Get comfortable testing the outlier. The next time you see Musk, or any outlier, claim X is at risk, don't just nod or scoff, test it. Quietly. In one part of your life or work, introduce safeguards, new skills, or alternative stacks. Don't tell the world, just build your pilot plant. See what you learn under safe conditions. Track patterns, not news. The signal is always in the series, not the single headline. Is Musk warning 3 times in one quarter about AI bias or infrastructure risk? Is he putting money behind the warning, not just words? If so, it's a trend, not a tweet. Act small, act early. You don't need to bet your life. Update a password. Learn one new verification tool. Move a fraction of your workflow offline. Connect with someone outside your bubble who sees the world differently. The smallest action is 100x more useful than passive anxiety. Pause and really let that sink in. In a trust-fractured world, people with the most options are the ones who can prove and adapt, not just believe or insist. In practical terms, if tomorrow, you lost access to your favorite platform, could you reach your clients? If your main source of income paused for a week, would you have side skills or alternate plans? This isn't fear. It's confidence that endures. Now, about the emotional part. If you're feeling resistance, maybe this script makes you want to tune out or put it off because it's uncomfortable. Congratulate yourself for noticing. That's the actual muscle Musk is prodding, the ability to sit with discomfort, to notice the itch before the burn, to prepare before the loss. People will always laugh at the first warning. That's good. It means the crowd is still behind. It means the biggest opportunities are still invisible to all but a few. So let's make this interactive. Right now, write down the last, obviously false, too dramatic, or outlier headline you saw in your field, or life. Just write it down. Set a reminder for 3 months from now to check if the world has moved closer to it, or if the warning is still a joke. That's how you build your own mental leaderboard of pattern recognition. Over time, your confidence grows, not because you predicted everything, but because you practiced seeing before the seeing becomes consensus. Pause again. Here's one last pattern to steal from Musk's playbook. Never let a warning go to waste. If you hear it, and it triggers an idea, or even just a question, act within 24 hours. Doesn't matter how small or awkward. Update, adapt, check your circle, run a simulation. The act itself is what trains you for the curveballs, so you're calm when the rest run. Alright, let's return to where we started. Why does Musk keep sounding warnings? Is it marketing, self-preservation, or something deeper? Maybe all 3. But the truth is, most system shakers are secretly more afraid of stagnation than of panic. They know a world that ignores signals can rot without anyone noticing. The only defense is to notice early, to invest in resilience, to make discomfort the cost of navigation, not the price of disaster. Imagine the alternative. Imagine you keep scrolling, shrugging, waiting for the world to make it obvious. 6, 12, 36 months from now, maybe your job, your network, your chosen path, hits an unexpected turbulence. You scramble for answers, for support, for options. That's not fate, that's deferred curiosity. Or, the flip side. You've trained this muscle. You've acted on small warnings, tested the boundaries, made friends with uncertainty. When the curveball comes, as it always does, you flex, adapt, and maybe even lead. Here's your CTA, your call to adaptation. Don't just share this video for clout. Share it with the person most likely to help you stress test your plan. Have the awkward conversation. Play the what if game. Update something real, today, while it's still easy. And above all, remember. The future isn't kind to the loudest, or the most certain. It favors those paying attention, those ready to be wrong, those nimble enough to update before the masses. The best warnings don't trigger fear, they trigger decisions. So, is Musk right, or wrong, about this warning? That's your puzzle now. You can wait for proof, or build some insurance. You can hope the script never flips, or write your edits gently, quietly, before anyone even realizes you changed the story. Thanks for staying all the way through. You're now officially in the minority. Not because you agree, but because you stayed present with discomfort, ready for whatever comes next. Remember, in a world full of fragile trust, attention is the new security. Don't waste it. Act early, even if nobody else does. Especially if nobody else does. That's how you outgrow every warning.